Hey, it's Melody. It's my turn to tell you about the episodes we're working on and to hopefully inspire you to submit your questions. First up, an episode about baseball culture. Anne says that I have to co host this one, and I am a Royals fan, which is the American League. Our guest is a Mets fan, National League. So I think we can cover all the bases. I'm really excited, so give us some good stuff to talk about. We are also working on an episode about different ways of hanging out and the different functions that those hangouts serve. Another one in the pipeline is with Avery Trufelman of the incredible podcast Articles of Interest. We're going to talk about outdoor clothing and athletic wear. We've got an episode on millennial hobby energy and another on what would make a society actually family friendly. And as always, we are taking your ideas for future episodes and your questions for Ask Anne Anything. You can submit everything at the same Google form, which is at tinyurl.com/culturestudypod. Okay, thank you. Enjoy today's show.
This is the Culture Study Podcast, and I'm Anne Helen Peterson.
I'm Jen Hatmaker. Delighted to be joining you today. I've written a new book that just came out called Awake, a memoir, and I live down here in Austin, Texas, and thrilled to be a part of this today. Thanks for having me.
I just want to say I'm so excited to have you today. I've been following your story for a long time. I reported from one of your women's conferences the Saturday before the 2016 election.
I remember this.
I was just rereading that piece and I was like, wow, is there so much in there?
That was a crazy time. I had just torpedoed my career the week before. That week was bonkers. And then you're like, hey, I'm going to come and cover it. And we were all like, oh God, it's a weird time. It's a really weird week.
No, and it was a weird week, but also I think like a really interesting one because I was, in the crowd talking to these women who are trying to figure out, and like the election hadn't happened yet, but like they're trying to figure out, what is my relationship to politics? Like,
totally.
I've kind of thought about this before, but maybe not as explicitly, like depending on what kind of church they went to and whether their pastor was preaching politics from the pulpit, just a really interesting moment. And then some people were like, yeah, I hate this guy. Like, he's against everything I stand for. And I would love to, each person that I interviewed to talk to them today.
That was such an interesting, pivot in culture, having come off 8 years of the Obama administration. It was just such a hard swing culturally. And then I was having such a hard swing personally at the exact same time. I mean, simultaneous. Mm-hmm. And so all that to say, you and I have come a long ways in 10 years.
I know, we've become good podcasters.
That's right.
I mean, and I know, we're framing this as a larger episode about midlife reinvention. And you describe your new memoir as a coming of middle age story, which I love. So tell me what that means to you.
Awake is kind of like two stories. I nestled my small personal individual story, which was kind of the loss of my 26-year marriage, and then the subsequent suffering and reordering and ultimately reinvention inside a larger story, which is far more ubiquitous, even though so is divorce. But inside the systems really in which I built that house of cards. So it's a pretty unsparing look at patriarchy and religious dogma and purity culture and body shame and gender limitations. And those were all the bricks that built the house. And so I had to examine those pretty deeply and come to the conclusion that it probably wasn't actually such a shock that the house crumbled. And so a lot of this I experience, as a person who leads a large community of women, one way or another, whatever leadership looks like in this day and age. But that is a really common story in midlife. And you can kind of swap out the loss or the change with a handful of things. But the story arc remains. Like a lot of us are going through, in my case, like the loss of a marriage. But in midlife, it's also, hey, my body is not behaving like I expected it to. My career is not where I thought it was going to be, or I'm unfulfilled. My age group is navigating our parenting has shifted. Our kids are launching, they're young adults. What does that look like? What about our adult friendships? There's this whole stack of things in midlife that most of us, whether all of them or some of them, are going, same. That's me too. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
You know, we, on the newsletter and the podcast, we call it the portal. And how at the end of the portal, there is often a burst of creative energy in some way. And I feel like you're in that space right now. But then there's also like to portal, like in the portal, it's like you're being throttled. Like everything is happening all at once. And you're trying to ascertain, like, why do I feel this incredible amount of rage? Is it because I can no longer master the systems that you're referring to? Like, you know, when you're in your 30s, you're like, I got this down. To some, like some people can feel like they have that mastery. But then when you no longer are like an agent of power within this, how do you grapple with that? But then I think it's also like, I feel all of this rage because that is a natural byproduct of perimenopause and menopause. Like this is something that my body is doing.
We're just like rage factories, like walking around in like an internal heater, just prepared to unleash. No, it is such a weird time, isn't it?
Yeah. No, and I think like, you know, and this is part of the narrative of the book is like with this transformation, like it's a cauldron that is like really difficult to just hang out in there. But then there is also life on the other side, right? Like there is reinvention. There is. And there is like excitement about that. But I also like, and this is what we're going to talk about throughout this episode is like there are complications.
Oh my
God.
Not
everyone has the opportunity to portal. Like think about our grandparents' generation. Like I'm sure a lot of those women wanted a portal.
They were just stuck.
Totally stuck.
They had to live with what they had. Their options were so few, and the systems and the culture were not set up with exit ramps in that stage of history. And so you are right. Like we have more options at our fingertips. But even then, even how old are you, Anne?
I'm 44.
Okay, yeah. So you're younger than me, but we're kind of you're south of me enough, but you're up here where this middle part kind of exists. And we certainly have more options, but we also still have complications. So Awake is not a tidy story, and really none of ours are. So I don't buy that like real clean version of a midlife loss and reinvention. It's just not clean. It doesn't mean we don't get there to somewhere new and somewhere better. But boy, it can be a real clunky ride from A to B.
And like sometimes when you have to narrativize it, it becomes more like bold. This happened in Act A, this happened in Act B, but there's always complications. So along those lines, like the fact of your divorce was very public, but you and your ex-husband kept the details private for a long time. What made you feel like you were ready to share it now?
Yeah. I just kind of went underground for a while. There was just a portion of time right after that loss where trauma and grief encompassed everything. I had no other gear. And that certainly was not the time to disclose the details. We have 5 kids. And at the time, I still had 2 in high school. I mean, they weren't all launched. And a couple of them were in and out of triage, as I like to call this home, once they leave and come back. So I was still parenting my kids' pain. And we were trying to find a new normal. And I was trying to rebuild an independent life, having literally never lived one when I got married when I was 19 years old.
Right.
And so there was just a season in which every ounce of spare energy went to just our real life our real family here on the ground. Also, thank God I didn't write this 3 years ago. I don't know what I would have said.
Oh, right.
Before I had worked, before I had been therapized and really recovered and even had a reckoning with my own patterns, my own complicity, like my own contribution to this sort of decline, it would have been a tidier villain and victim story, but way less true. So now, 5 years later, having experienced so much healing, and what I hope is ownership. I hope I have a degree of self-awareness that comes through in the book. This felt like the time to talk about it. To be honest with you, as a writer, as a nonfiction writer, pulling up my chair to the table of creativity, knowing that writing is what I do in the world, that is my work, there was no credible or feasible way for me to write about anything other than the last 5 years.
Yes.
What am I going to do?
Right.
Be like, hey guys, last time I saw you, things were a little different. Anyway, let's talk about this thing over here in left field. And I learned a lot. And I feel like it was my responsibility, because this is my work in the world, and kind of my honor, to be honest, to write through my experience and offer it to my community.
You said something in your interview with the New York Times, which is phenomenal, by the way, and we'll link it in the show notes. But you said like that you always think of a difference between discretion and privacy. So like there are some things that you feel that, yes, I can be honest about these things and I want to be honest as a leader. But then there are some things that are like, it's okay for me to have privacy too.
That's right. And listen, nobody will hand it to you. Everybody wanted every sordid detail. And I'm sorry, spoiler alert for future readers, those are not all included in the book either. There is so much that I have kept behind the firewall because discretion, because privacy, because those details do not serve the story, nor do they change it. Because that is my kid's other parent forever. And this is our real life. Like, we have a real life that we live here. That is not this public thing in the New York Times. I mean, that is the anomaly. Our real life is over here, and it deserves care. And I have the right to privacy and discretion. And so even though I have now written about my divorce, when up until this moment in time, I'd never even said there was betrayal. We never said one detail about what had happened. And now I've done quite a bit of fleshing out of it. Even then, it is still highly discreet. And my North Star when I was writing it, because the whole time I was writing it, the entire time I kept thinking, I can't do this. I can't say this. I can't admit this. I can't include this. I can't believe I'm going to expose myself like this. I at all points along the way, I thought I was going to capsize the project. But the North Star that I hung on to the whole time when I was deciding, what do I say? What do I include? What do I exclude? Was, will I be proud of this in 5 years? Will I be proud of this whole book? Will I be proud of this paragraph? Will I be proud of this sentence? Will I be proud of this word? And I will tell you that question kept that delete button in working order.
Great. No, sometimes you need to write the sentence and then delete the sentence.
I put it down.
You have to write it first.
I didn't self-edit. I told myself, you have permission to write everything into the first draft. Absolutely everything, which was helpful and useful. And then we're like, all right, let's comb back through this and decide what meets the 5-year pride test.
So for listeners who aren't as familiar with your work, like, it's hard to overstate how important of a figure you were within evangelical women's circles. And, one thing that you say now is that you used to be the darling of evangelical women's subculture, and now you are the problem child or a problem child.
Yeah.
Can you, for listeners who aren't familiar, run us through a little bit of this reinvention?
Again, this goes back to when you and I first met.
Yeah.
I had my comeuppance through evangelical women's subculture. which is a thing.
Because you said that gay people are people, right? That like they
That's
are
right.
people, like God loves them.
That's right. I mean, when you say it like that, it seems pretty plain and obvious, right?
Right.
But in 2015, in that world, and to put a real fine point on it, I came up Southern Baptist, which is the right twig of the right branch of the right limb. And so there was very unambiguous theology around same-sex anything, which was no. That was the theology. No. No, you aren't that. You don't get to be that. You don't get to be included. If you are that, though, if we're wrong, then your only path is celibacy. It was bleak. It was very, very bleak. And so highly destructive. We'll never mind the depths of the pain that, not just the pain of the death that theology created and still creates. The cost of conversion therapy is that we'll never put a price tag on it. It is so high. And then just the loss of dignity and personhood and belonging is catastrophic. And so just with my eyes and my ears back then, I was watching all this unfold going, this theology that I've been handed my whole life, which was never even honestly discussed. This wasn't even a talking point. It was just like, this is what this is, moving on to more complicated things. But I'm paying attention because I now have much greater visibility into the world. I'm older. I'm wiser. I'm more mature. My experience has widened out. My perspective has widened out. Going, the results don't match the theology. If the theology says this is how we're going to find life here, this is how people are going to flourish, then why are they all killing themselves? Why are their families all broken? Why are teenagers homeless? Because their mom and dad kicked them out because they're gay. So anyway, I'm getting in the weeds here, but the cognitive dissonance and the misalignment became too much. And so, as you mentioned, in 2016, a week before the election, I gave an interview to RNS and said, I've changed my mind on this. And I essentially, as you put it so succinctly, I'm like, okay, yay for gay, be gay. We love you. You matter. You count. You are gay. This is not that monumental, frankly. But I was like, I affirm gay people at every level, and that ended my career. I mean, it really did. It effectively ended my career. And then that was my descent from darling to problem child.
Well, and if people aren't familiar with how this works within the evangelical publishing industry, your publisher was like, we disavow this.
The next day.
Nuts.
Disavowed. Press release. They pulled of course, bookstores everywhere pulled my books off their shelves.
Yeah.
But my publisher put my most successful book out of print. And it was the one still selling it. It was like my financial engine at the time. And so, I mean, it's very, very punitive. And then, of course, the social community followed suit. And so it was just scorched earth. It was honestly scorched earth. It was a really low time, actually, not because I regretted my decision. The only regret I had is that I didn't get there sooner. That was my only regret. But it was a really lonely time of loss. And to be the center point of that much long-term, sustained negative attention was harmful. I mean, I can just remember people, friends of mine that live elsewhere in the United States texting me going, Jen, you are the subject of our Sunday sermon, and not in a good way. That happened so many times I couldn't even tell you, on college campuses, every media outlet, So it was very overwhelming time of loss.
And in hindsight, right, it's not about you.
It's not.
The backlash had to be that strong in order to underline what is actually an incredibly vulnerable point of theology that is being challenged every day.
That's right.
Right. And so it's not like obviously it was about you, but it wasn't about you.
That's right. Also, that behavior is used to reinforce that particular hard boundary inside evangelicalism. So in other words, everybody pay attention. That's going to be you if you step out. Mm-hmm. If you step out, we will level you down in this way, in this manner, and to this degree. And so it's very effective. I mean, what a deterrent. I mean, who wants that?
Right.
Yeah.
God. And also that teed up a lot of things that were to come. So like, this is what I think is so interesting is you were reinventing your faith and your belief system. Like this was happening. That stuff was happening personally before the dissolution of your marriage.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's not like, oh, I had a moment of trauma and then everything changed, right? Like everything was changing.
That's right. I've not had 1 year exactly like the year before it in terms of stability since 2015. So
I think a lot of people would say that in middle age, right? Like
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That's really kind of what I was saying earlier. Like pick a category or all of them. Apparently my life wanted to pick all the categories. Like let's have people everywhere in every strata. But yeah, like this is it is a transitional season of change. And some of that change is chosen. Some of it is chosen for us. But these are the conversations we're having right now. And I find them so comforting and instructive and useful. And so I'm glad to be having them with so many women here in the middle of life. I think we together collectively are very invested in writing a different story, not just for midlife, but for our future. We're about to be this huge generation, one notch ahead of us that are our mom's ages. And I love that there seems to be, to some degree, a bit of solidarity around these discussions that we're having, like we're having today.
Yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by Birch. I've had my Birch mattress now for nearly a month, and I am obsessed with it. I don't think I realized that the mattress that I thought was good that I had before, that it wasn't giving me the support that I needed. And this Birch mattress, my sleep scores, I have a watch that tells me my sleep scores. Like it's actually, I can watch the sleep scores going up over the past month. I'm not even kidding. Birch has all natural materials. It doesn't have any of that like harmful off-gassing that happens with a lot of mattresses now. I also know that the mattress that I'm sleeping on is made with organic raw materials sourced straight from nature, which makes it both comfortable and durable. Birch sources only from the finest quality materials like organic fair trade cotton, organic wool, and natural latex to create luxurious mattresses designed to give you the best night's sleep. Every Birch mattress is constructed with a focus on breathability, so it keeps you cool at night. I am one of those people who needs all of the windows open no matter what time of year and is always like, don't touch me, I'm too hot. So this has actually helped, at least thus far, with keeping me cool. And right now, Birch offers a 100-night risk-free trial to see how your body adjusts to the mattress. They're shipped directly from their facility to your door for free, and the mattress comes rolled up in a box, so it's really easy to set up. Birch owns its own manufacturing facility and relies on skilled manufacturers to produce the highest quality product, and they believe so strongly in their mattress quality that each one includes a 25-year warranty. I want all my listeners to enjoy a deep, restful night's sleep with a new mattress from Birch. Go to birchliving.com/culture for 25% off site-wide. That's birchliving.com/culture and get 25% off site-wide. birchliving.com/culture. Today's episode is brought to you by Beam. Like a lot of people I know who are around my age and have a lot going on, I struggle to wind down at night. I have come up with various routines that help me a lot. Some of them include not looking at my phone after a certain time, or keeping my phone in the other room sometimes, or reading an actual book. But one of the things that I use is Beam Dream Powder. It doesn't knock you out. It just helps you wake up feeling like a functioning human who got a full night's sleep. Dream is an all-natural sleep blend with science-backed ingredients designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. And unlike other sleep aids, there is no next-day grogginess, just real deep sleep that helps you actually feel good in the morning. Beam has improved over 17.5 million nights of sleep, and 92% of users surveyed reported better sleep and waking up refreshed. Right now, for a limited time, Beam is giving my listeners their best offer yet, up to 40% off. You can try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/culture and use code CULTURE at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/culture and use code CULTURE for up to 40% off. Okay, we're going to go through a bunch of questions from readers. We'll see how many we can get through that are just around this larger issue of midlife reinvention.
Great.
So this first question comes from Chelsea.
I'm approaching my late 30s. I had 2 children in my mid-20s, and we just had 2 children in the last 2 years. Part of me wants to continue having children for the reason that I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not wiping butts and breastfeeding. Why am I so scared to have to reinvent myself, get to know myself, and find new ways to spend my time as my children become more independent?
So I wanted to include this question because I think motherhood is sometimes such a welcoming identity, but then also sometimes it can feel like, who am I outside of motherhood?
Totally.
And it can be difficult to get outside of there. And you have 5 kids. Did you ever feel any of these things that Chelsea was feeling?
Motherhood, particularly young, early childhood and elementaryhood, kind of right, so all-encompassing. It was so overwhelming that I did not put the governor on the machine to go, I want to throttle back here and make this slow down. That wasn't my experience. I was so overwhelmed. I'm like, when will this get easier? When can they make a sandwich? When am I going to get out of this car? Like, that's all I did. My part-time job was driving people places and picking them up. Yeah. And so I didn't have that. And that could have just been from sheer volume of children.
Yeah.
It's very hard to wax nostalgic when you have 5 kids in your home. But also, to Chelsea's point, there's something so all-encompassing about motherhood that it is a full brand. Like that, it dictates everything: your rhythms, your schedule, your budget, your friendships, how you spend your weekends, what hobbies you have or don't, your marriage relationship. If you're married, it very much is the lead horse in that race for a while. And so because motherhood is not one line item, it's like all of them. It almost defies our imagination sometimes to go, what is this going to be when this isn't everything? When it's not right. Do I have a hobby? Do I like this spouse? Like, what will my career look like when I have these extra minutes in every day? There's just so many question marks around it. And I think we don't necessarily crave or love uncertainty in our stories. Some of us do. You know, there's those kind of risk-taking types that are like constantly going, oh, what could I blow up this week? What could I change? What could I reimagine? I love that personality type, but that is not what most of us are. Most of us have a real affinity for stability and familiarity. And so thus the idea of motherhood even changing can be scary. Yeah. All I can say is that being on the other side of that, my youngest is now 19. So I'm through it. My oldest is 27. I'm going to have my first grandbaby in 2 weeks. I hope that what Chelsea can do is not just trust the process, but trust herself. That she is a very real, very whole human being outside of being a mom. That there are things about her that are interesting, that are useful, that are exciting, that are still awaiting like this fresh new expression in her life. And so if she can trust her own self, we grow into that next iteration of ourselves. It doesn't just end on a Tuesday and we pick up a new mantle on a Wednesday. It's not like that. We grow into that space. And it is so exciting. I mean, I have said this for years and years and years, and you probably know this, but like parenting teenagers is fun. Like it's not this doomed experience, this aging motherhood thing that people suggest.
Mm-mm.
Wait till they're young adults. That's the best. God, they move out. They pay their own cell phone. It is brilliant. Like, what if I was about to give me a baby? This is awesome. So,
you're like, I don't need to have another baby. I have access to a baby
that I don't have to raise. That's the best kind of baby. The best kind of baby that there is. And so I have so much hope for Chelsea and all the women who are going, who am I going to be when this season of motherhood is over? And I'm like, wait till you meet her. You're going to love her so much.
It's almost like, you're in the thick of it and you open up the cabinet of like who you are. And you like, just on the surface, it looks very bare. You're like, there's nothing there. There's nothing interesting. Right. And so you slam it shut before you look in the back and like, oh, it's all there.
That's
like, this is a well-stocked cabinet,
oh my God,
but you got to look a little longer.
What a great analogy. It's so true. I have yet to meet a woman who does not actually have a well-stocked cabinet. Women are so fascinating, so brilliant. We're such a great and glorious good in the world. And so there's nothing to fear about the next iteration of who we are and the one after that and the one after that. We just keep getting better.
This next question comes from Claire and Melody's going to read it.
I'm in my late 40s and have always pushed myself. Grad school, engineering, Ironman triathlon, ultra marathons, 3 kids, plethora of reading and traveling and volunteering. My spouse, who doesn't work, and I have accumulated a small nest egg, and I'm feeling unmotivated. I am happy, but the kind where I enjoy spending a lot of time in bed and on or listening to my phone. I miss feeling that drive and ticking off those accomplishments. I feel my mind and body are telling me to relax and enjoy my wonderful life, but I don't feel like myself without some big goals, especially as I lay in bed thinking about the state of democracy and how I'm not doing much. What's going on? Am I going through the portal, or am I addicted to my phone, or am I just old and exhausted?
I think Claire is burnt out.
Yeah.
I think she has been pushing herself towards these goals for so long and has used the goals as a motivator.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, and I think she will understand this as an endurance athlete, at some point you could reach overtraining and the returns diminish, right? Like your body doesn't do what you want it to do. And the only way that you recover is through actual rest. But I also think she doesn't know how to give that to herself because it's not an accomplishment. It doesn't feel like an accomplishment.
I cannot say that any better. That is exactly what that is. And it's so tricky, particularly in American culture, because I understand Claire. I am wired in a similar way. I'm an achiever. I'm an Enneagram 3. I am highly productive, big capacity.
Yep.
I understand. And then that is added to the fact that people like us who go, do, achieve, we are rewarded for that. We are.
Yeah.
Our culture is like, look at her go. And they give us the roses and they put us on the thing and they just say, God, what a role model. Like she doesn't even need sleep. She works 2 calendar weeks in 4 days. Look at her go. And we get applauded. And we get rewarded financially sometimes. And so that is a tricky reversal. Very, very tricky. But I am so convinced that this pace that we have been handed and that we're complicit. We're the ones who also said, okay, we'll do this. We'll have no boundaries. We won't say no. We won't cut it off. But I am convinced at 51, this is not the better story. I'm figuring it out. It is dawning on me right now. Like, I'm not going to get these years back. And some of them were so packed and so exhausting, so endlessly busy. I can't remember them.
Yeah.
I cannot remember them.
Yeah.
So is that what I want? Do I want to get to age 75, look back on 60 years of productivity and go, wow, what happened? What did I do? Like, what do I have left? What remains? I don't want it. I don't want it. And so I think what Claire's probably going to have to do, which is what a lot of us are going to have to do, which means, is she going to be able to weather this discomfort long enough to get to the other side? Because that's uncomfortable when you're used to a rhythm and a pace. And all of a sudden you're like, your brain says, let's enjoy this life. But your body's like, get your ass out of bed and go run an ultra marathon. That's just uncomfortable because you're out of alignment. You're misaligned.
Yeah.
I think she can get back into alignment, but she's going to have to weather this feeling of discomfort for a minute to get there. I suspect it's going to be worth it.
Yes. And I think like the one piece of advice that I would give is, and this, I get this from my Peloton instructors, is to frame rest as an achievement. That might not be like, that's kind of a hack, but at the same time, it might be the on-ramp that she needs in order to understand rest as something that is valuable, that is necessary in order to get to this place.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. I'm trying to get there right now. Do you have an Aura ring? Do you do this? Have you subscribed?
I don't have the Aura, but I have a Garmin that I check my sleep.
Oh my God, me too. I check my sleep every morning, and I cannot function without it. So like there is something not just restorative, but required about rest.
Yeah. Do you have what I have, which is a slight amnesia about the process of writing any of your books?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
it's the only way we can keep writing. It's the only way. I'll tell you what I get amnesia for. where my amnesia becomes acute is less the process of writing, which because I know this is true, I'm highly introverted. So I very much like being at home in my quiet little rooms with my little quiet laptop. I actually like writing.
Yeah.
Where my amnesia comes in is when I have forgotten what it is like to release a book. That
which is what you're doing right now.
Is what I'm doing right now.
Like, I mean, the number of interviews that you do a day, and you say very similar talking points. I feel like your brain has to turn off a little bit.
I'm still kind of on the front edge of them right now with you.
Yeah.
But also for me, it's the travel, like the book tour piece. The only way I'm able to function right now in my brain when I am like thinking about my fall schedule is that I almost pathologically refuse to look at anything except today. And that's it. Like I have a daily email that comes in from my assistant that goes, here's your today. And I'm like, oh, great. I can do today. That is a day I can do. And I will not worry about tomorrow until tomorrow. And so anyway, it's a very imperfect system.
No, but like as we give advice for this listener to rest, I think one thing I've tried to do is understand, okay, this is a season of hard work. And then I'm going to have a season where I pull off, where I pull back on the throttle.
Is everything.
Right?
I am ending this season in November with like almost 2 weeks with all my best friends and with Tyler, my boyfriend, in Ireland and Scotland. That's my price. So I'm like, I can do it. I can get there.
You're going to sleep so well. It's going to be like the perfect temperature. It's going to be raining so much.
The beer, the pubs, the sweaters. Put me to bed. Like, I can't wait.
Today's episode is brought to you by Lola Blankets. I am recording this ad while wrapped in a Lola blanket. The Lola blanket is currently the most valuable item in our house. We fight over it all the time. It travels with me as I move throughout the house. This is not surprising. I am a huge blanket person, but now this is like the MVP blanket. I mean, I have like 12 blankets, like 14 blankets. I love blankets, and this is the best one I've ever had. I'm not kidding. It is incredibly soft, and not the sort of soft of some like velvety blankets that once you wash them the first time, you're like, oh, it's not as soft anymore. It is so soft. I have the queen size, so it's just small enough that I really can like drape it all over myself and move it around. Melody has the extra large, which she says is the perfect thing to put on your bed, but also use as like a full cover when you're on the couch with like another person. I'm so obsessed with it. And every person that comes over fights over it, whether they can have it on their body or not. It also has like this cool stretch to it and a little bit of heft, but not too much. It's like, you know how if you want a weighted blanket, but you actually don't want it to be that heavy? You just want some of that like pressure on you when you're laying down. It's just like, it's really, really good. It's also machine washable, super important in my house. It's double hem for durability, and it stays flawless. Like there's no pilling or shedding, even with repeated washes. I cannot tell you how different that is from other blankets I've owned. And right now, for a limited time, our listeners are getting a huge 35% off their entire order at lolablankets.com by using code CULTURE at checkout. Just head to lolablankets.com and use code CULTURE for 35% off. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Wrap yourself in luxury with Lola Blankets. Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. All right, so you might have heard of HelloFresh. They've been around for a while. They send chef-crafted recipes and fresh ingredients to your home. But this summer, they have made a huge menu upgrade. This is not HelloFresh as you may have remembered it or if you've used it before. They've doubled their menu. Now you can choose from 100 options each week, including new seasonal dishes and recipes from around the world. Like, this list is incredible. It's so impressive. There are so many different types of food. Like, I'm pretty particular about the types of food that I like to eat for something like dinner. Like, I want something that's straightforward but has like protein but a lot of greens. Like, I like what I like. And there is a ton on the menu that are things that I would choose. Like, it took a long time for me to decide what I actually wanted because there were so many things that I wanted. There's also, like, you can get steak and seafood recipes delivered every week for no extra cost. There's 3 times more seafood on the menu now. Again, no extra cost. You can discover new seasonal produce every week, from snap peas to stone fruit to corn on the cob, or right now there's like a lot of squash coming in. I love it. The best way to cook just got better. Go to hellofresh.com/culturestudy10fm to get 10 free meals, and a free item for life. 1 per box with an active subscription, and the free meals are applied as a discount on the first box. This is only for new subscribers, and it varies by plan. That's hellofresh.com/culturestudy10fm to get 10 free meals and 1 free item for life. Okay, so our next 2 questions are about the practicalities, and I really wanted to include these because I think sometimes it's like, oh, must be nice to have a midlife reinvention with your middle-class lifestyle, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So, okay, first question is from Anne.
How do people reinvent career-wise midlife when it feels like it requires at least a temporary but significant drop in their income? Is it taking on debt and having a partner who makes enough to support you with a single income? I just have trouble wrapping my mind around it, but maybe I've just experienced too much lifestyle creep to feel like I can take these kinds of risks. Would love to hear how people who are not independently wealthy and living in urban areas do it.
And then second question, which is also part of this first, is from Elise.
Is the midlife reinvention the purview of those with the right amount of privilege? I have a quote-unquote dream job and still would love to pivot. Unfortunately, I'm the primary income earner with the benefits and 2 kids and even a supportive spouse, and it feels impossible.
So I remember the first couple years after your divorce, and also after, like 2016, that you had to be pretty open about having to dive into your finances, figure out what is going on. Like, what has that learning process been like?
Oh, boy. These are such good questions.
I know, right?
Yeah, they're such good questions. And it does bear an examination of where does privilege fit in to this sort of story arc when it comes to reinvention, really of any kind, but particularly as talking about a career. And to some degree, they're right. Not everybody has the luxury of making a pivot without either a cushion or an alternative source of income or a partner's income. They're right. But also, I was just talking yesterday to my friend Kirsten Powers, who was in the journalism CNN machine forever.
Yeah.
And she'd seen enough, heard enough, and done enough to go, this rat race is not going to fix itself. And she's right. It will not. Nobody is ever going to care about our career pivots, our dreams, the rhythms or pace that we would love to prioritize. Nobody's going to bend their thing around us. And so she moved to Italy with her husband, which is a fraction of the cost. Like, your dollars go so far on these little old houses, and it's just crazy. When I actually see the numbers, I'm like, is that in dollars? And she's like, yes. But anyway, we were talking yesterday because I included her in a piece that I wrote on Substack. I'm inspired by her. And the truth is, for most people, if what we want is a pivot, a career pivot, a energy pivot, if we want to reallocate our time, something else has to change. So whether that means we really took a hatchet to our expenses, the way we spend money, our debt, if that means we go, okay, for this season, we're going to build the structure like this so that we have an off-ramp here and we are able to get over. I think regardless of how people do it, there is some degree of sacrifice that is included. Yeah. Even if it's just the sacrifice of certainty, of assuredness, of stability in a job that we've always had, that we're always going to be, rock solid, and go, oh, I'd like to set sail over in these unknown waters. That to me is a risk and a sacrifice. But I think at the end of it, it comes down to, God, the amount of time I look at my future self as a source of wisdom is often. I did it as a writer writing this memoir, and I do it as a person living a life, which is, I think so often about my 95-year-old self. That is my anchor. I can't tell you how often I go to her for wisdom. I just have a very good feeling about my longevity, obviously. I'm going to live to be 95. I'm very optimistic about my lifespan. But I ask her so often, what do you advise me to do right now? What will I be grateful that I did? What will I be grateful that I risked? What will I be proud of? What will I remember when I am surrounded on my 95-year deathbed with everybody who loved me and everybody who I raised and all my people? What story will they be telling about me? And that helps me make decisions for today me. It helps me go, I don't actually think this is going to matter in 1 year, much less 45.
I like that that the first question really brought up how lifestyle creep keeps us from things that we otherwise want to do. It's what keeps a lot of women that I know in unhappy marriages.
Yep.
And, the statistics bear this out, that like divorce rates are lower when you have higher education, like oftentimes progressive, high income earners, or like at least like the household income is higher, because there is more fear of losing that stability and the power that comes with it, right? Because we're talking about all sorts of privilege that flows from staying in that position.
You're right.
What I will say is that I think sometimes we, as older adults, are so scared of precarity. And sometimes it's because we've weathered it and we're like, we grew out of it and we never want to experience that again. And I get it. Or like debt is something that you take on when you're 22. Not when you're 42, whether that's student debt or credit card debt. And I think that we have aligned those sorts of things as like things that younger or irresponsible people do instead of things that we do to save ourselves.
That's great. And I think there's this space to go, I am going to put my chips on me. Yeah. And that might require financial risk. That whatever that might be, this sense of confidence in your own instincts, in your own decision-making capacity for your future, in your own preferences and desires, that has value. That is valuable. And so I think women particularly, we want a version of the next season of life to match our imagination and our like hopes and our aspirations. And what we are really craving out of life, but we do not want to take the risk to get there.
Yeah.
And so I think that stability is a great deterrent of happiness. Yeah. And I wonder what would happen if women go, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to, whatever that is, like whatever that is, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to pay the cost, and I'm going to count on myself to get there. I love that story. And I don't think it's rare. I see this happen all the time with women in midlife. It's very inspiring to watch. And so again, going back to an earlier question, are we willing to weather the discomfort of making that transition? I don't know.
Yeah. And I think like women are often ascribed the responsibility of keeping the family together. Like it's like the thing that feels like it's on their shoulders and somehow no one else's, right? The stability of the family is the woman's responsibility.
Yes, it is. I mean, that is so real. And that sense of responsibility is sincere. Like, I can tell you, as somebody who lost a marriage after 26 years, I wanted to go the distance. I did. I had a vision for our life together, which I craved so much. I wanted the long story. I wanted a long love story. I've got my parents, my in-laws they're on their 53rd year, both of them, 53 years together. And their home is like this landing pad for all of us adult kids and now all the grandkids. And it's just a beautiful story. And so we're not lesser or weak for wanting that or for feeling responsible to building that kind of family. But we are not the only ones doing it. Like that burden is not ours alone. And there comes a moment when that vision is so compromised by reality, and we're loath to admit it. I said in a wake, I wanted the story of my marriage, not my actual marriage. And so it's a big hurdle.
Yeah. No, the story of your marriage instead of your actual marriage. I think a lot of people can identify that. Or the story of your career, right?
That's
or the story of your motherhood.
Yep.
Did you feel like everything, like if you could just get like the kids out of your house, did you delay it? Were you like, okay, I will finally refocus on marriage when the kids are out of the house?
God, it's hard to know if I was thinking that. Maybe. I don't know if it was that cognizant, if there was like a real forward thought, like I will tend to my marriage after these kids leave. But I think it happened in the soft tissues for sure, in which the management of that many moving parts is so overwhelming that it almost feels more rare to not become roommates at that point. Yeah. When it is just go, you take this, I'll take that, you pick up, I'll drop off, you pick up dinner, you go to this game, I'll go to that game. And again, that we've opted into that system. Parenting does not have to look like that. That is a optional system that we have all said we would like to overschedule our children to the point in which they do not have 10 minutes of free time in any given week. So we've opted in.
And grafted onto an American system that is incredibly hostile to families, even though it says that we love families.
Sure.
Like it is incredibly difficult to parent in America today, in part because we still live with this fantasy that most families still have one parent, one adult in the home, just doing that work.
Totally. We built our systems on an antiquated structure. And then, of course, I know there's so much ink has been spilled on this, so I won't belabor the point. But even as the structures change and most women work in full-time capacities, that's the biggest. We are still tasked with the lion's share of invisible labor at home. Mm-hmm. So it's just set up for failure, kind of at every turn.
And then you get the situation where when that mental labor decreases significantly, when and if the kids leave, you come up for air and you're like, who are you?
And that goes back to Chelsea's question.
Yes.
What am I going to do with all this free brain space? Like, who will I be? Who will I become? Like, it's no wonder that we have no imagination for it. We don't have time to dream about it. Like, there just isn't a spare moment. And so I love these questions, and it constantly like keeps my foot on the gas of going, is all of this inevitable? The way in which we live, the ships that we have all built that we now have to keep afloat. That's the deal. Like, is there a way to sail these ships back into the harbor and pick a smaller vessel that requires less manpower, less fuel, less staff to keep that thing on top of the water? It's a question that I'm asking. I have the luxury of asking it because I'm older and I've already raised the kids. And so I recognize the hypocrisy inside of it, having raised my kids in the machine.
Right. But also, like, we should understand that as wisdom as well. Right.
Maybe so. That's a much more generous way to look at it. Thank you, Anne.
I think sometimes we're like, oh, well, of course someone can say that if they're not doing it. And I don't have kids, but I think a lot about parenting in the US because I do have some of that mild objectivity of not being in the thick of it. So I can really empathize and understand by asking a lot of questions and doing a lot of listening about why it's so hard to deal with these realities today. But I also can say, like, it doesn't have to be this way. And other countries, other civilizations, other societies are proof that it doesn't have to be.
That's 100% right. I a few years ago, we were on a trip with all of my best friends and all the spouses. This was pre-divorce, but we were in Italy and we were on this tour in Rome. And on a bike tour, and our little bike tour guide had his master's in Italian history. So like he knew everything about every little rock on the sidewalk. And I remember sitting at we had stopped at a coffee shop to have some coffee, and we're just circled around the table with him, asking him questions. And he was an academic. He had like absolutely no sense of irony or humor. He was very literal, which made him very funny to us. But I remember asking him something about the way Italians live, like their priority around rest and connection and sensual experiences and food and wine and, just a beautiful lifestyle, if not somewhat glamorized by us, but I don't care. Whatever. I'm in. Like I'm biting on that hook. And I remember he said to us very just plain. He goes, "Oh well, I mean, Americans, you don't know anything yet. You're just born. You're just like," he goes, "You guys need to live about 2,000 more years and then you'll know something." And I was like, oh my God, we are the middle schoolers of the universe. Just impetuous and know-it-all and impossible to govern and like conflicted at every turn, like needy, but also bossy. And like, I'm like, we just don't know anything yet. We don't know it. We just need to live another 2,000 years and then we will know a little bit. And so, yes, the rest of the world is very instructive to us if we have the humility to look and learn from the wisdom of the ages, literally.
I think it's very appropriate that a conversation ostensibly about midlife reinvention with questions from all women has turned into a conversation about the difficulty of the mental load and just how much we're doing in intensive parenting practices. Seems right. We're for the very last question. This is the last part of the show. Okay. If you can stick around and help me answer one question for the Ask Ann Anything segment. It's a bonus segment just for paid subscribers. So listeners, if you want to hear our thoughts on changing friendships in midlife, head to culturestudypod.substack.com and sign up. Jen, it has been such a delight to talk again.
Thank you.
Where can people find you on the internet if they want to find more?
I'm just Jen Hatmaker everywhere. There's just the one. I mean, how many Jen Hatmakers can there be? And so that's what I'm on all the socials. I have a Substack channel too called Letters from the Middle. And then it's just jenhatmaker.com is a great hub for all those things. But thank you for having me on. Thank you for talking to me about Awake. I feel really honored to be with you and with your community. And there's just so many of us here. And thank goodness we do have podcasts. Because our generation is many things, but we will not ever feel alone. That is a fact.
Thanks so much. Thanks for listening to the Culture Study Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts because we have so many great episodes in the works, and I promise you don't want to miss any of them. If you want to suggest a topic, ask a question about the culture that surrounds you, or submit a question for our subscriber-only advice time segment, go to our Google form at tinyurl.com/culturestudypod or check the show notes for a link. And if you want to support the show and get bonus content, head to culturestudypod.substack.com. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, and you'll get ad-free episodes, an exclusive advice time segment, and weekly discussion threads for each episode. The Culture Study Podcast is produced by me, Anne Helen Peterson, and Melody Rowell. Our music is by Poddington Bear. You can find me on Instagram at Anne Helen Peterson, Melody at Melodious47, and the show at Culture Study Pod.